now you should be able to see that all in your screen. If anybody has a microphone on and can confirm that for me, that'd be great. If I move from slide to slide, we're working?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much. Okay, here is a floor map for Experiential Japan. And we start in Tokyo. You can see the star right down here. 3 nights in town, which is really, really fun. Your last night is free as well. You'll get it from the mid-afternoon onwards to plan some adventures for yourself. Then we take our first train ride out of town. We will head to the Yamagata province, spend the night at Mount Haguro. Another night on the other coast up there at Matsushima, really a beautiful stop. Then we re-greet our luggage, I'll go over that, for our 3 nights around Nagano. Then we say goodbye to our luggage as it goes to Kyoto. We'll stop on the coast here in Kanazawa for 2 nights, and then catch up with our bags for the last 3 nights in Kyoto, reminding you that you will have an extra afternoon that's free there too. So it's always fun to have an adventure towards the end of the tour when you're feeling more confident about things. Some of the highlights for me, I should let you know that we actually, these categories, we started to do on Friday afternoons. All the tour leaders would gather with some of the office staff and the agents and the people that you don't always talk to in the office, but that we do. And we've all taken turns presenting these tours to each other, because it's always going to be your first time. Somebody's got to do it first time. So these are ways to help each other. So all these categories came from what we thought we should share with you. And hopefully you will agree by the end of the tour that these highlights work for you as well. The rooftop onsen in Matsushima, a little scared to mention that simply because we don't always stay in the same hotels. The tours run 3 times. Chris Tripodi missed out on it, but my 2 times I got to stay in it. It's absolutely beautiful. The colors everywhere in the fall, the oranges, yellows, reds on the mountains, just absolutely picturesque. And then the opposite, in the springtime, you get the cherry blossoms, and it really is perfection. Our Maiko dinner, the final night in Kyoto, is very special as well. It's a really nice way to finish off. So I always warn people, please do not book your flights to miss that dinner. Some people do. I know sometimes plans are best laid, but that doesn't always happen. And then the highlights, oh my gosh, the food on this tour, from convenience stores, which are quite an adventure and you're never more than 50 steps from, it seems. Kit Kats, which I'll explain a little bit about on the way, and kaiseki ryori. It's a very fancy way of eating food in Japan, and we will do all of that in our 2 weeks there. The activity level and concerns, we call it a level 2 on the tour, and I think that is fair. It is not arduous, but you need to be able to, when I yell, just get on the train, to just get on the train with your bags, move quickly through the airport. Sometimes we can do everything we can to make sure connections are smooth and plentiful, but every once in a while we've got to run for a train, and you got to be able to do that with us. Getting bags tucked away so they're out of the way of other passengers on board. Trains are a really special place in Japan, and we have lots of behavior we have to follow. And so we need to have a little procedure for getting bags out of the way for people. And as I say there, teamwork makes the dream work, especially if you have a couple tall guys that can help out. Knees, you will deal with a lot of stairs, especially at the start of the tour. Mount Haguro and the Yamadera Temple, those are like day 4 and 5. Matsushima Castle is a little bit tricky because the stairs are narrow, steep, and you're going to share traffic. It's always a little scary. And Fushimi Inari has lots of stairs on our final days in Kyoto. So that's it's a good one to have good knees on, because we also sometimes sit on the floor at dinner. I should never have to make you sit cross-legged and at a very tiny table. Generally, we get what we call horigatatsu, and that's got a big hole in the floor. So you sit down, but so you're sitting on a chair, but the chair is the floor. And then you'll have to get up. So it's not always glamorous, especially if we've had some sake, but we'll get you there. And then, as I mentioned, in Nagano, our day going to the snow monkeys. Sorry about this, you guys. I don't know how to make my text not ping. Sorry, that's going to ping. Sorry. There are some days with lots of walking, like the snow monkey visit. So that is a good 1.5 kilometers just to get to the venue where we see the monkeys. So you do need to have some ability to get around. You don't want to be holding yourself up, you know what I mean? Or making it a little bit too hard for yourself. Arriving in Japan, the visa on arrival is good for 90 days. It's pretty easy breezy at customs. There's lots of staff to help guide you through. It's extremely efficient, as you would expect. And not sure exactly what it'll be going post-COVID, but I would imagine it's going to be just as efficient. Our transfer, if you wanted to purchase that along with airfare or however you're going to go to and from the tour with Adventures Abroad, our transfer has someone meeting you at the airport, and we'll put you on a shuttle bus that will head into the center and drop you off at different hotels. It does the circuit. So you can count on at least 90 minutes, and then depending on traffic and the order when they visit the hotels, it could be up to, oops, not hours. Oh, I can't fix that. Too late. Okay. Spelling mistake. The Skyliner train runs directly from Narita into Ueno Station in the center for about $28 Canadian. It goes every 20 minutes. It's very easy to follow. It's well signed in order to get there. I believe you can purchase tickets ahead of time. I just go to the counter and get them because there's always a train coming. The usual hotel is only one train away from that. It's either the yellow line or the red line on the metro. If you feel comfortable with that, it's a little bit trickier, but it's still relatively easy simply because if you're comfortable using foreign metros, it easily makes sense. So getting connected when you're on the ground, it is pretty nice to have access to internet if you would like that, or being able to talk to home. There has been an awful lot of trouble over the past few decades with communications in Japan. It is starting to become much more seamless. Now we hit the ground, pick up a SIM card from counters in the airport, and you're immediately connected. We used to have to rent a separate Japanese phone to be able to text with our guides, but now thanks to WhatsApp and Line and the different apps that are out there, it's really great. And I do recommend you do talk to a human to do this. The first time I tried through a vending machine, and I was really careful to make sure I was getting the right SIM for my phone, but I was wrong, and about $75 worth of wrong. So you don't want to do that. There's lots of humans that will help you. Hyperdia is a great app to get comfortable with. It helps you plan all of your train trips within the country. That's what I use when I'm helping you get around. If you're going to stay for a couple days after, or if you arrive a little bit early, or just adventurous and know you might want to do something, that's a great way to plan moving about. New for the tour, you'll receive a Suica card. We just did this last time I ran it. It was really convenient. They are like the Oyster cards in London or Octopus card in Hong Kong, if you've ever come across those. They'll be preloaded with the amount of money for all of our Tokyo subway costs. You can, however, top them up. So they work like a credit card at vending machines, which are everywhere in Japan. Super convenient in the train stations. You can use them at the convenience stores. And then just tap. It's one less step when we go through the metros, which is great when we're trying to herd 20 of us through different gates and all the rest. And the Japan Times puts out what they call their Fast Five. It's a Monday to Friday email that you can sign up for, and they'll give you the 5 big stories of the day and a little link to read it a little bit more if you'd like to. Their podcast is also really worth some time too. That's really easy to find anywhere you get your podcast from. Guides. This is a picture here of our local agent. So you wouldn't necessarily meet Miho, but she is the gal on the ground who helps make things run smoothly. We have 2 local guides that will travel with us under Miho's guidance. They will basically, generally I get Katsumi, who goes with me from Tokyo all the way to Kanazawa. And then because Kyoto is its own big giant center, we have a guide special to that area at the end of the tour. The local agent provides me with maps, one big, beautiful one of Japan, and then for each Tokyo and Kyoto, and I will mark them up for you unless you wouldn't like me to. Miho is holding on to some pickles. Pickles show up very frequently in Japanese food, and my sister made pickles because she's a good little homesteader here in the small West Kootenai town of Trail, and so I brought those to her. Japan is very much a gift-giving culture, and that was to thank her for her hard work. And it also gave me a little bit less weight in my suitcase and some extra space to bring things back. So that's what I like to do. Money issues on the tour. It used to be a lot more of a thing to be able to get access to cash, but more and more ATMs work just fine with foreign cards. It's no longer really a worry. And for Canadians, I don't feel like it's really worth you getting USD. Tokyo is a very international city, and you should be able to change Canadian without any penalties. We do have current rates of $1 gets you just over 100 yen, and $1 Canadian just under 100 yen. And for perspective, if you walk into a 7-Eleven or the Lawson's, the convenience stores, you could grab a beer for 150 to 200 yen, about $2, right? In the vending machine, $3, $4. At dinner, $6, $7, depending how fancy the restaurant is. Trip on the Tokyo Metro is about $250 if you're within kind of a typical zone. Same trip would be about $2,500 in a taxi. The big bills are slightly larger than ours physically, and their money is always pristine. So if you have one of the bill folds where you're going to kind of smush it up, or you feel like you need to hide it. I saw that recently where people fold it really, really teeny and it goes in the belt of their fanny pack to hide it from pickpockets. You do not need this in Japan. You'll be very, very safe. You could drop money and it would sit there till you walked back 2 hours later. People charge their laptops in the Starbucks and go to the bathroom and don't even think about it. Security is not an issue in the country. They would very much like you to respect their money, though. So if you have a billfold where you're able to keep them pristine, you will be greatly appreciated. Their money is always perfection. The handling of money is done in a very low-key fashion. There's a lot of issues with the public trade of money. When I'm tipping guides or drivers, the money is always in an envelope and it's very casually handed respectfully. Most restaurants will not accept tips from me, no matter how I try to say thank you or how I try to phrase it or get it into the kitchen or anything like that. It's really just not a part of their culture. Everybody makes a fair wage, and so it can be a little bit insulting. So there's lots of little things to work on handling money. We'll go over that, including I mentioned their money trays. They sit at checkouts or at the hotel. Anytime there's money, it doesn't generally go hand to hand. You would place it in the tray and slide it over, and the person would take it and deal with it, put the change in the tray, and push that back. Lots of little things, but we'll go over that. There's an example of how pretty the money is and how you're going to have to get used to some coins. You do get quite a few of them, and some of the teeniest is worth the most, and it's all a little bit confusing until you get a little more comfortable with them. But yeah, the Japanese money is quite lovely. Packing, things to think of, shoe removal. This happens a lot, every day, all of the time. Most dinners, we're gonna have to take off our shoes to go. Anytime you go inside, you would take off your shoes. And so in Japan, anytime you step up, even if it's only an inch from a concrete flooring to, say, a wooden platform, your shoes are off because you've now come inside. So slip-ons, something that doesn't require a lot of lacing to have for day to day. Of course, you want your comfortable footwear, but just keep in mind, you will be asked to remove it a lot. Wool socks are dangerous in the Matsumoto Castle. 2 of us learned that the hard way. It's very slippery on the wood. So I will warn you that day as well, not to wear wool socks, but there you go. And a couple of the tourings that we do, you will be either in your socks, or if you're like flip-flops, you'll be in your bare feet. And there's a couple where the wooden floors are very cold. So I'll warn you so you can tuck a pair of socks into your bag just to flip those on. Or if you have little slippers, or steal the hotel slippers, borrow the hotel slippers. Those are all available and they're good options. The smaller the suitcase, the happier everyone will be, both you and me, and the people that we ask to help us get it up into the overhead bins. Overnight bags, you're also going to leave your big bags twice. Like I said, when we go up to the top, up to the onsen and the ryokan, and then when we go down to Kanazawa, we'll be without our main suitcase. So an overnight bag, a great one, is imperative. And last little thought, because I mentioned the onsens, tattoos are generally forbidden. We don't see signage on the onsens in this tour. On the Japan Rail tour, I have seen it where it's explicitly explained you should not go in with a tattoo. It's too closely linked with the Yakuza. And so a person with tattoos are suspected of being connected with crime. It's slowly changing, but not yet. Any kind of sporting tape, bandages, anything you have to cover a tattoo, even if you have a face cloth that you can carry with you in the bath. Something to think about when you're packing. Free time, as I mentioned, you will get some. And it's really fun because you get a night in Tokyo when you're feeling a little more confident after a couple of days. We go to the Tsukiji fish market, or what's left of it, in the morning, do our sushi rolling class, and then divide and conquer. Or get together and do something, but our guide is there to help take people. It's a fun little dash of about 8 hours that you'll have free in the city. Your final day in Kyoto is a half day as well. We finish back at the hotel after touring centrally in the city. We could easily swing by the central train station if you had a grand plan. And I do try to arrange spring tours. There's a kabuki style show that you can see there. So hopefully we can make that happen for those of you that came along. And of course, they're both great cities for extra nights if you wanted to come early or stay late. Highly recommend. You will also probably be flying out of Osaka, so you could consider some extra time to explore there as well. Pardon me. We've had so much smoke up here in the West Kootenays. Everybody's feeling it. I got some honey and water and trying to keep my throat lubricated. Hopefully nobody else is experiencing this. British Columbia, I know California, all the rest. Certainly feeling for you. Transportation on our Experiential Japan tour. We use local transit like metro in Tokyo and Kyoto, streetcars in Kanazawa, they're kind of fun. Local buses, the coaches are in play for some of the longer distances. We get some fun games going on there with Katsumi. We'll teach you how to read the script in Japan. Taxis are a fun game that we play in Kyoto. I'll make up envelopes for each cab. They will have in kanji, in the Japanese lettering, the address of wherever we're going with enough money to cover the fare. Somebody's the mama for the cab. You'll take the change and the receipt, pop it back in to give back to me. And then the taxi driver will open the doors. The first time people are scrambling because you can't open the door. And this feels very odd. You're trying to jump out and get your luggage. The driver makes sure business is settled, then he will go and get your luggage. It is all very gentlemanly. It's very rare to get a lady cab driver in Japan, but they're starting to come back a little bit more. Just for perspective, here's a little snap I took while waiting for a train in Nagoya. It's really fun in some of the stations when you know they can come right through. The bullet train does not even slow down. That was 18 train cars. 18 train cars went by at that speed. It's really, really a rush to be around. It's really fun. There we go. Well, I have a blank screen. Sorry about that one. Food on the tour is a very well-rounded sample of Japanese food, I must say. But it does tend to be on the fancier side for many of our dinners. It means a lot of sushi. Chris Tripodi's group had a little bit of a rebellion. They were not there for the food. I highly recommend you come for it because it is great, but it can be a little bit challenging. I try to balance it as much as I can with the izakayas or the pub-style meals. Okonomiyaki is one of my favorites. It's always a treat. That comes from the post-Hiroshima blasts, which we'll tell you all about. But in the picture here, the okonomiyaki is down here. It sits on the teppen, on the frying in front of you. And you have your little tool. There's dips and sauces that have to come along with it. And it's really a fun night when we go for okonomiyaki. The sushi is an example. These two corner dishes are examples of how you would receive stuff at kaiseki ryori. Each course having something to do with the season, what's fresh. It's beautifully presented, and it's almost a shame to eat. This is a dinner that we get when we go to Mount Haguro. I'm always fascinated by it, and all I can think of is who stacks the dishwasher. All of these different plates, shapes, sizes, it's really art. And that is again, a little bit of a testing meal because it's very, very authentic, but that's a glorious night. And as I mentioned, the Kit Kats, this is fun. Kit Kat is very close to Kitakatsu, which in Japanese suggests may you prosper. It's a wish of luck. And so many graduates or new businesses or people receive the gift of Kit Kats because it's wishing you success. And they come in flavors like that. There's a sake bottle in the bottom right and Tokyo banana. That's my favorite in the yellow box. I'll get you to try a few of those on the road. We generally do not have trouble dealing with dietary allergy issues at all. If it's really concerned, like anaphylactic shrimp allergy, we'll have the guide write it in kanji for you to be able to carry everywhere. So you can be absolutely safe. There's no room for making a mistake with simple enunciation or pronunciation. You could consider bringing a fork as well if you're not super handy with chopsticks. It can be difficult to find them or at least find them quickly when we're out at a restaurant. It's not typical, and so sometimes it can be a bit of a stretch. It can be super convenient for you too when you are away or just doing something on the side. If you have a fork you can reuse, keep in your purse, or have someone keep in their bag for you, that would be optimal. This I had to include for no reason. I did have someone who was allergic to shellfish, no good, the shrimp, and one lady who did not eat beef or pork. And I thought those were adorable. I made them carry those with them the rest of the tour. Hotels on the tour are lovely. They're pretty great, but pretty tiny, as I say. The toiletries are fabulous. When we do our nights without our luggage, you don't have to pack a lot of stuff because face cloths, creams, lotions, shampoos, everything's available. It's really, really wonderful. Many of the hotels on the tour have coin laundry, which is really great. And they coincide with nights when we have our bags. Also really great. Some have baths and onsens for you to enjoy as well. Don't worry, you don't have to pack your bathing suit. You don't wear one in there. At Mount Hagoro, we stay in a Shinto temple complex. It is very authentic. It's almost like a homestay. Futon beds on the floor. So I'll coach you on how to get back up from those if that's needed. Some may share bathrooms. There are stairs. Truly Japanese cuisine. I always remember to grab some Starbucks packets because there's only tea in the morning, and I know that can be a deal breaker for some. But even down to the keys, it's kanji, so you don't have a number. You have to match it to what's outside your door, and it always causes some fun. Matsushima is sheer heaven at the resort. The rooftop onsen, as I mentioned. It was a stunning dinner buffet. I don't know if buffets live again after COVID. We'll learn that. And it's a possible massage spa experience as well when you have a lot of free time that night in Matsushima. So there's a little picture from my camera, the reflection in there. There's professional pictures on the website from the hotel, but that's the Matsushima Bay right there, a lovely garden to stroll. The rooftop onsen is above my room, and this is one of the few times where I have a couch, sitting space, bed, bathroom behind me. Usually you can't swing a cat by the tail, right? Not sure who tried that first, but there you go. Okay, on to the day by day for the tour. Just for pacing, I should be finished by about 10 to 2, and then we'll have questions and answers and that kind of thing. But here we go, day 1 and 2 of Experiential Japan. Arrivals in your Tokyo City tour. Arrival night, I often book dinner right in the hotel. We're able to get a space so that I can come and go to meet people as they're coming in, and I don't disrupt dinner. Affords us a chance to do a little bit of an orientation meeting. Generally, we'll start that on every tour with information that you really, really need to know. Nonetheless, I'll have a handout for you to please read, and we'll talk about it again the next day at the end of your tour. But hopefully cover off all your details, get you set up and back into the proper time zone. For the day 2, our Tokyo City tour, I will leave you with the guide. I'm going to take all of your passports, and I meet the agent to activate the rail passes that we'll be using. Then we reserve seats on all of our preferred trains, and I have to forge your signatures, and it takes out a whole chunk of the day. So I do kind of miss your trip to Sensoji Temple and maybe Kitchen Town. I get to catch up with you somewhere. We'll see. A train ride to Fabric Town, the Edo Tokyo Museum. We should be able to get you into potentially see a sumo ring. It depends what season we're there. That's a very great day in Tokyo. And if you have done our Japan by Rail tour, JP1 and 2 codes, this tour is basically, it can stand on its own just fine, but it is meant to be some way for you to go back to Japan, having seen what we offered the first time. Nothing should really repeat except the Golden Temple. That's on both, but that's the only one. Hopefully, I will have met up with you somewhere along the way, as I say. We'll catch up for dinner at the pub across the street that night, and those still battling time zones can call it a day, those that are up for it. It's a lovely little neighborhood that buzzes at night, so you can go out and explore. These are some pictures from Kitchen Town. This is really adorable. It's every restaurant in Japan. Sometimes instead of having the menu out front, because they know foreigners, we can't read it, they will have pictures or these plastic items of food to show what they have. And so there's an entire street with businesses dedicated to providing these to restaurants, little beers, little sushis. There's a giant fried rice that's a display. Restaurants sometimes get very, very grand. It's really a fun picture day. Day 3 in Tokyo, as I mentioned, this is our half day. We'll do the sushi making class. We'll visit what remains of the outer Tsukiji fish market. You know that back in the day, unfortunately, I never got to see it before they closed it down and to tourists, because it sounded like an amazing thing, throwing the fish, all of the auctioning, all of the action, these fish mobiles that would go by, and the tour leaders would be so stressed, hoping people didn't get run over because we weren't always paying attention. We're taking pictures, that kind of thing. Sounds like it's a lot less stressful now, but it is very different. Still lots of chances to get some great photography, eat some really great food. We'll give you some free time to stroll through once we've gone through once with the guide. And then we head to our class, our cooking class, which is our lunch. You'll see this is what we created. Mine turned out pretty perfectly, didn't it? It's because I actually am there to try to help you. I end up hindering a little more often than I should, and I get to eat the teacher's plate, and that's what she made. It's perfect with the little Japanese omelet here. That's got quite a bit of a technique, different pieces of nigiri, sushi, and you will make your own miso soup, learning a little bit about that process as well. And then you are free. We'll divide and conquer. Last time the guide took those that wanted to the museum district down in Ueno, because that's not an area we go to on the tour necessarily. I'll take you for dinner. And so then you'll also know how to get back. So that might be a comfort zone. I took many back to the hotel for that trip and then set them up for their evening. A few of us went out to go to the Shinjuku district, and I will have lots of suggestions for you. So hopefully you're back on your time zones and you can enjoy your free night out on the town. These are some of the things you can do in Japan, because it's crazy with the different things. You're on one of the fanciest streets, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, all of the high-end Burberrys, they're all there. And then you get a bunch of backpackers who rip through dressed up as Nintendo characters, driving go-karts like they're doing Mario Kart on the Nintendo game in the streets of Tokyo. And this is the Robot Restaurant. It's an $80 ticket for this show. Comes in many stages. You can see the look on people's faces. As soon as it starts, they're kind of thinking, what have we done? An epic battle between man and robot. Also known as the most Japan I have ever done. Sarah Hughes and I did that on our first night in Tokyo when we went on a training trip. And if you've traveled with Sarah, you know she's a lot of fun, and we had some great neighbors, and gosh, was that ever a great experience. I do say it is not for everybody though, but there you are, a free night in Tokyo. Day 4, we will head for our bullet train. We'll head to Yamagata and Mount Haguro. First train day, you will be directed, please don't speak to me. Please don't speak to me until I get us to the train platform. And we'll all just follow along that first day as I learn how to get everybody to and fro again with all of our special needs. It's a stressful morning, but it's fun. We leave our big bags at the hotel, which is super convenient. Takes a little bit out of there. We'll see them again at Nagano. They get transported for us. We'll pack for 2 nights, keeping in mind that we'll stay at resorts. So you will be encouraged to come to dinner and do a lot of things in your yukata. Like a kimono, but more simple, a little robe. You can come to dinner, you go to the onsen, it's everybody, the locals do it, and it makes for great photographs, for group pictures. Then we will train on to Yamagata in the morning, and a coach takes us up to Mount Haguro, where we will drive to the top of the mountain, visiting the Sanjin Gosaiden Temple, and then we walk down 2,200 stairs to where we stay for the night. If that sounds horrific, the bus goes back down to where we stay for the night. You can stay on it. But the descent through the forest is your meditation as you leave the temple. Most do it the other way. They walk up and you pass them and you're glad you're going down. Even though knees and hips may start to bark and be slow to forgive, it really is a beautiful walk. There is a small bath at the basic little Shakubo temple accommodation. Helps soak away some pains at the end of the day. There's little to no English spoken in the restaurant, but our guide is there to help. In the restaurant, in the entire hotel. Even the room keys have kanji characters instead of numbers, so you can wear your yukatas to dinner again. Not very stressful, but fun and challenging and knee-deep authentic. This is a shot of the temple here, the roof with the orange. It is famed for this thatch. I'm going to say it is between 5 and 6 feet deep. And of course, thousands of years old. So you'll learn lots about that, but that roof is absolutely magnificent. And here is an idea of us going down. The stairs are not that deep, but they are long, and you got to do it. So I just like to put a little fear of God into people, and then it's not that bad. Yamadera Temple Day, we will have left our ryokan in the morning, our Shinto temple, to head to the ryokan tonight in Matsushima. Along the way, we will take in a Shinto morning prayer ceremony, those that are interested. And then we have our beautiful authentic breakfast, a little bit of a check again of the surrounds, and off we go, heading towards Yamadera. That is a little tourist town famed for a temple on a hill. Yes, today we do stairs up and down, thousands of them, but there's lots to stop and look at along the way to catch your breath and to admire the views. We will learn a lot about Basho. He was a great haiku writer. There is a little tribute to him along the path, and that's where Katsumi will probably engage you in your haiku writing contest. We'll give you a few days to do that and come up with some prizes. Lunch happens in our little tourist town there, and then we head on the ryokan trip to Matsushima across the top of the island, if you remember from the map. If you arrive a little tuckered out, that's perfect. We have dinner basically on your own at leisure, and you enjoy the onsens and the spa, massage. It's really lovely. All the touring we will do tomorrow morning. The first time we ran this tour, it ran slightly differently. This would have been our first stop, and we realized it just put a lot of work on us. So now we've got it running really perfectly. 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. Really nice. This is a great night to kind of relax, get caught up, and then we can jump into seeing the things that we need to see tomorrow. After soaking in the rooftop onsen, I must admit this is not my photograph, but it looked a lot like that, and I had a full moon, so it was beautiful. And this is for perspective. Yeah, that's the hill that we climb in the Yamadera area, and our tribute to Basho visit. So it is a little bit uphill. When we leave our morning out of Matsushima, we will do our touring there, seeing one of the 3 views of Japan. This is an idea that's hundreds of years old. So there is currently some argument about naming 3 more current cool views of Japan, one that works better for Instagram or whatever. But currently, the 3 views of Japan are here on the postcard. The upper left are the Pine Islands of Matsushima. Matsu meaning pine, Shima means bay. So it is the Bay of the Pine Islands. You can see the cherry blossoms. We'll go up that hill too for a perspective view, and hopefully get a day like that. If you were on the Japan Rail Tour, down low here, you see the Torii Gate off Miyajima. We visit that one. The only one I have yet to see, this is just off Kyoto. So you could do this with your free afternoon or an extra day. This is Amanosha Date. It is the sandbar, and its picture, its shape, that is one of the 3 views of Japan. So I got 2 out of 3. If anybody wants to come with me at the end, we'll knock the 3rd one off. That would be great. We will also take a little cruise on a tourist boat through the pine-clad islands, and we play that game of what does that look like, because they call it Rooster Island, and you're kind of trying to figure out where's the rooster, but it is fun. And then we visit the Ziganji Zen Temple. Absolutely beautiful and humbling to see caused by the tsunami. 2011. The tsunami caused quite a bit of damage there, and you see the distance that it covered and the height that it was from the ocean, and you realize how much water that was. And it's an impressive morning. It's the best way to say it. We will drive about an hour to Sendai. In the train station, we'll find our lunch. That's always a lot of fun. And then we will enjoy that on our afternoon ride to Nagano. I think it's about 2.5 hours for us to do that. We will have a change too, I believe. We will be reunited with our suitcase though. So it's a race to the laundry room that night. And then we go out for dinner on the town. As we are now through our first week, day 7, from Nagano, we will visit the monkey park, your snow monkeys, and the town of Obuse. We have a drive this morning that takes us out of the city, out into the mountains. Spectacular on the fall tour. The parking lot has trees right there that are just on fire with color when we arrive. We begin our forest bathing with a walk that's a little more than 1 kilometer through the woods to where the monkeys are. There's a guy with a stick there, but we are mostly on your own. Monkeys are the jerks of the universe. They are so cute, but they are awesome and awful at the same time. My advice is always just don't stare the big guys in the eyes. They feel a little challenged. I had one get all angry at me, and if you look away, they take off. But again, there's a guy with a stick, so we'll be fine. From there, we head to the town of Obusei, where we visit the Hokusai Museum. Hokusai is a painter who is famous for the 36 views of Mount Fuji, and one of the most famous pieces of art to leave out of Japan. It's called The Wave, with Mount Fuji in the background. He is responsible for that. And the town is also famous for chestnuts. So we'll try and find you some chestnut ice cream if we are there in the fall. Here is a little treat of what we... well, the missing link between us and these guys, because they're just like our kids, aren't they? Of course, the guy getting groomed is just in heaven. And then a few more minutes for kids too, just because it's fun. So that is an idea of what we see while at the monkey park, but you're not going to get the classic photo because we're out of season for the snow. Sometimes they're still in the baths though, if it's a cooler day, and we can see them just outside of the park sometimes too, but it's still a pretty special morning hanging out with those guys. Day 8, we will, from Nagano, visit Matsumoto and their castle. We also stop at a wasabi farm, which is quite a cool experience as well. In Matsumoto, we stop by the castle first off to see its grounds. It's a big one. And again, the reminder, no wool socks today. Loads of narrow, steep stairs and some shoes to carry. You get to take them with you in a plastic bag. Crowds of other tourists as well, so that can be a little stressful on the stairs. They are made for very slim Japanese people. Not always for North American shoulders and hips, so it can be a little bit of a challenge. We'll judge it by the day and see how you're feeling. And you would be free for lunch then, or be encouraged to come with me to see the art of Yayoi Kusuma. Don't know if you know of her. She uses art as therapy and paints with dots, and she's from the area, so she has her own museum. It was on the itinerary. It wasn't a big hit. Those that liked it a lot, but apparently there were people that did not like it, so it's out of the itinerary. Something we could do in lunch break though. And then in the afternoon, as I mentioned, we visit Dayo Wasabi Farm. It is the largest in the world, and we learn a lot about the plant, and get to taste samples in the gift shop. Do a little shopping there, bring home some wasabi with you, and once again, try the ice cream. Why not? Returning to Nagano, we'll tour the Zenkoji Temple, which is historic and special to the people of the area. It is one of the more important temples in Japan, and those that are brave can walk the dark corridor underneath. It is a Zen ritual to walk to gain purity. It's a trust process. You go underground, curtain closes behind you, in the absolute dark, you walk. You can't be like this though, because you are searching along the walls for a key. There's a key that's on a wall, and if you touch it and find it in the dark, that means there's more, it's a better reward for you. So it's a bit of a challenge. I suppose if you're super tall, I might walk like this, but those that are my height, you do not have a problem. Those that do not find that fun at all, the idea, there is a wonderful sea of humanity on the shopping mall that's just outside of the temple to watch. It's a great way to finish our day. Another lovely dinner after seeing the Matsumoto Castle, trying to get the reflection picture, but on a windy day, that's not always possible. Here is the Dayo Wasabi Farm, not just beautiful for learning about the plant and seeing how it grows with the water flowing by, but look at those mountains back there. The Japanese Alps really are beautiful. And here's a little peek at Yayoi Kusuma's museum, or her display. She's a permanent part of this museum in Matsumoto. I think it's wonderful. Hopefully you would like to come along. Day 9, we will move on to Kanazawa. Bags are going ahead to Kyoto, so we've got our overnight bags for 2 nights in Kanazawa. On arrival, we generally stay right by the train station so we can go, drop bags, refresh, get everything ready. And then we use local transit this afternoon to get us over to the Samurai District. It's one of the most beautiful Japanese gardens in the country. I wanted to show you here from the Journal of Japanese Gardens from July 2003. Right here, number 3, the Nomura Residence in Ishikawa Prefecture in Kanazawa. This garden here, the 3rd most beautiful garden in Japan. And as of note, number 20, Genko Sushi Restaurant in Kyoto. That's where we're going to have our final dinner, just so you know. So lots of nice gardens. And we'll learn about what makes a Japanese garden exactly that. Great little stop for lunch there where we're going to pick up the bus, which is really nice because you're getting to be a little bit more adventurous and there's a lot of options for you. Then we hit the Botanical Gardens, Kenrokuen Gardens, a massive park. It is a great place to watch Japanese girls in traditional dress pose for selfies. Very, very popular in spots for people to dress authentically. And it's not always the tourists. They may be Japanese tourists from a smaller town coming to the bigger centers. They have so much fun. And they're great photos for us. If we're lucky, you get a wedding party up there. It's also today's recommended stop for ice cream. And yeah, there's plants. Last, we have the Chaya or the Tea House District in the afternoon. That's a glimpse of past frozen in time with a couple of blocks with old, authentic tea houses. There's a lot of gold leaf producers in that area as well. So depending on the kind of time that we have and your interest, those are some things we can do to round out the afternoon. And there you go again, the gardens. Dinner on the town in Kanazawa. We're close to the coast, so you do get a lot of seafood those 2 days. And some okonomiyaki to balance it out. Day 10, this is a day that we will be traveling to Gokoyama and Shirakawa villages. These are gasso houses, traditional villages with large, tall thatched roofs. And it's a really lovely coach day because, again, we're climbing through the mountains. And depending on the seasons, the vistas are just stunning. Some of the houses that we visit in the villages are still homes. Many are museums or shops. We have local guides that can help us there within it. We can go together. We can break apart. It's really kind of a fun visit. Depending on weather, also, we are in an outdoor village, so that can shift our day. But the Gokayama space has a great stop where we make washi paper, Japanese washi paper. They use mulberry bark to make the paper. We get some little takeaways, and we have a really fun lunch. One of the ones where we have to use a machine to order, take a ticket, and give it to the server, just because we're getting really good at being in Japan by now. Our last stop for the day, we race back to make sure that we get to the Zen Museum of D.T. Suzuki. It's a bit of an irony that we do that, but we always want to make it before it closes. It's a lovely little half-hour visit. Suzuki was a professor of Zen Buddhism who made quite an impression on the world. There's a lot of people that know the name and want to come see him. Others are just happy for this beautiful building that we get to spend time in, make some very nice photos, and it's a nice calm end to the day. Leading up to tonight, I have been making sure everyone is pretty sorted for onward travel. We stay within a couple blocks of the JR rail office at the train station, so it's really easy to get your onward tickets. Pardon me. Or to book seats. For those of you that are doing any sort of extra travel, it is not as convenient for us to do that in Kyoto. And so you've had some time to discuss your plans with myself and the guide. We'll get everything knocked out, and then we have no worries when we get to Kyoto. Everybody's plans are sorted and you have tickets in hand. That's really great. Here is an example of the Gasso house. This was from a fall tour. You can see how the colors pop up and they're so beautiful. Little museums inside. Or as I mentioned, shops, businesses. It's a great day. And the Lautenbergs, half of the Lautenberg crew on my tour, making washi paper. You get to take away 3 cards with some little decorations. It's really quite a fun afternoon. Kyoto and the Gion district. We have taken our last train, the Thunderbird, into Kyoto, and we will catch up with our luggage and meet a new guide. In the afternoon, sorry, I should just stick to the script. I'll get confusing. Our rooms won't be available when we arrive because we get there generally just before lunch hour. So that's, again, drop stuff at the hotel and get rid of that rumbly in our tumbly. We'll start at the Nishiki food market right around the corner from our hotel. Those that are brave can just go for it and have some lunch. It's very chaotic to get through as a group. It's very tight space, very, very busy. traffic comes through, cars, it's a heads up game. So those that are brave can just go for it. Otherwise, there's lots of little restaurants just before. We'll do it as a group later, meeting up. It's a fun, busy little space. Then we will cross the river and we get into the more classic scenes from Memoirs of a Geisha. It's where a few of the outdoor scenes, most of that movie was made in North America. It was made in California, but they did some live shots, including in the Gion district where we're going to walk. So we'll be looking for geckos and maikos, not geishas. That's a bit of an international word. In the Kyoto proper, a gecko is a professional geisha in our mind, and a maiko is training and still learning. So we'll learn about the differences, we'll learn how to spot them. Hopefully we will spot them and get, again, just a really great experience as we wander through that district. We also sort of work it where we tend to walk right to dinner. We've had a big day. We have a lovely dinner on the river. If you're still up for it, again, we can walk home. It's great. Or I'll pop you in a taxi and get you home to get your laundry. It's a big day with lots of footsteps, but it's what you picture when we get into the Gion district. It's what you picture from that Memoirs of a Geisha era of Japan. And it really is fun. Here's a little corner of it. You can see some of the gals. Those are not professional geckos or maikos, but they have rented those kimonos for the day, and they walk through dressed up in the sandals, and they're beautiful, and they make for great pictures. And this is the Nishiki Food Market, that yellow, greeny, blue, and red roof. That is the signature. It is a good 6 blocks long, and you can see it's very narrow. You never see it that empty unless you're going right before it opens or just after it closes. It's generally a very, very, very busy stop, but exciting and fun, as all markets can be. Day 12, as we get close to the end, it's our last full day of touring in Kyoto. We will start with Genkuan Temple, best seen in the morning. This is another Zen temple. I don't love early starts, but a guide talked me into it once, and it was perfect. We were there before the crowds were, and it was really a Zen way to start the morning, because there's nothing we can do. We will be fighting crowds at Kinkakuji, or the Golden Temple. Everybody vies for the reflection shot in the water. Can you blame them? This is perfect, but it's a relatively small space where people are standing, and you have hundreds of people standing trying to get that shot. Go around the corner, have some more fun with the locals, is I like to do. After lunch, we visit the grounds of the Gessen Inn Temple. It's got amazing small gardens and a 600-year-old camellia tree. It's all bonsai and really indigenous plants. There's a matcha tea ceremony that we'll take in on that afternoon as well. And head back in for one last morning here, day 13 in Kyoto. It's our final sightseeing and maiko dinner day. Fushimi Inari. This is another scene that was in Memoirs of a Geisha. That's the orange torii gates that you see. Rarely do you get it with nobody in it, but if you are patient, you can do that with your photographs. Fushimi Inari in the morning, and then the Gekikan Sake Museum. That is a fun one. It might be a little bit early, sake samples before lunch, but it is a fun little round out for the shorter day. Fushimi Inari is a very busy site. I do kind of let you run because it's really hard to stay together. The orange torii gates honor Inari, the Shinto god of rice. We'll learn a little bit about that before splitting up. And then you can walk up, you can walk down as much or as little as you want. Photography heaven. There's just a lot of people, so that can really test your patience. The coach then takes us around to the sake village, where we'll learn a bit about its production, visit the museum, have some samples, and then your afternoon is free. We can drop you there, drop you to Kyoto main rail station, or back to the hotel, and we'll make some plans from there, because we do stay actually really close to the fish market in a really nice little district. And then our final dinner, which I hope nobody's flying away from, that is the maiko dinner. You can expect a couple of dances by our maiko, and maybe some skill testing drinking games. I've never been able to beat them, but we do try. That is our maiko on the last trip that I led. There's never, we can usually get a little bit of a translation going if our guide comes for dinner, but she must be a little bit lonely in groups with ours. She plays a game that's a little bit like a kitty patty cake game with you, but there's tricks, and she's very good, and you're just learning. So you often end up having to have a shot of sake because you did not beat her. So there is our final night. The next day, you're going to look at departures. Again, you're probably already plotted and planned with tickets in hand. Many of you will fly from Osaka, Kansai Airport. The rest generally come in or out of Narita or Haneda, so you'll want to go back to Tokyo. Your rail pass would still be valid for one other day because we get 15-day rail passes. And Kyoto Central Station has tons of options for you if you're going to go it on your own. Bullet trains, regional connections, bus shuttles, taxis. It's really not that hard to get anywhere in Japan if you have your destination written down. Your local guide and I can make sure you have that game plan. And I'm probably riding one of the shuttles in the morning, so might be going with some of you anyway. That leads me to my last slide. So I'm going to pop out now to say questions, comments, or concerns. I'm going to step out of presentation mode. I'm going to take a sip of, am I still presenting? Sorry, let's go make sure I'm not. Take a sip of some warm water from my throat. Invite you to unmute your microphones. And then if you wish, you'll see in the center of the buttons at the bottom of your screen, the hand that looks like this. If you click on that, I can see that you have a question for me, and I'd be happy to hear them. I will just give you the caveat that I don't feel right now like I should speak on anything really COVID or anything, because all sorts of procedures are in place on how we're going to go forward as Adventures Abroad. You can find that at adventures-abroad.com. As for Japan, who knows, right? We're watching the Olympics. We're watching some of the fallout maybe from that. Their numbers are still high. They're doing a great job. The vaccinations are coming. Inshallah, I think is the best we can say on that. We'll just keep our fingers crossed that we see some more. Okay, first one I see is Jan Preston with your hand up. Jan, did you have a question?
I do. You were talking about lots of steps. Are there generally handrails or are they steps without handrails?
As you saw on the Mount Hagoro day, nope, no handrails on that one. They are not steep. A walking stick would be great. I've done it twice, and I've only had one person have trouble. This tour has run 3 times, and only once have we had somebody really not be able to do it. Those that have had a look and go, you can get on the bus and go back down. It's not a have to. There's always a workaround. But the 2 main ones that I'm thinking of, no, handrails are not always there. So a walking stick or similar would be a really great idea.
Thank you.
Thanks. That's a good thing for me to put into my notes for that as well. Hopefully others stick around for the Q&A if they watch it. I don't see any other hands up. If you do have your hand up, you can just turn on your microphone. Oh, you can just, Jan, did you have another? Go for it.
I did, and that was, would it be possible to get a copy of your slides?
I think so. I should be able to just, I'm not sure because it's, I would have to ask because it's through Google Docs, so it's within the office. However, I am not bothered by doing some screenshots or similar. I do know there is intention from the office that this presentation will be available going forward, would be available online for people to consume as well. But if not, it's first name, last name, pamshui@gmail.com. You're welcome to send me an email and I could fire some things through, or if there's specific ones you had questions about, I could do that too.
Thank you.
Okay. Eileen, you have your hand up.
Yes, it's Warren here.
Hi, Warren.
Could you please comment on picture taking? First, the sort of the general ethics of taking photographs in Japan, and then secondly, photographic opportunities on the tour, specific to the tour.
Yes. I cannot begin to even guarantee that we will see Mount Fuji, right? It's got its own weather pattern, to steal the line from So I Married an Axe Murderer. We get near it. We get places where we should be able to see it. Will it be a photography heaven? Not necessarily. There are many opportunities. There are not really rules. Japan is very photo-driven culturally. Obviously, permission is a great place to start if you want a picture of a person. But public spaces, things like that, the comfort zone is huge. The only one I can really think of is a place called Piss Alley, and it's It's literally an alley with these little restaurants. It didn't have bathrooms, and people used to go to the bathroom over there. That's how it got its name. And so these little kiosk restaurants are amazing, but people they're working hard, and it's hard for them to make their money. So it's got to be efficient and concentrating, and they really forbid photography. That's one of the few places I have seen anything like that. They are very photo forward as a culture. Depends whether you want cherry blossoms or autumn foliage considerations on the tour. Because of timing, there's not always time to get the perfect shot. I know sometimes I know I had a big photographer on my tour last time. Scott he left us the morning after and joined a photography tour that has the ridiculous 4 a.m. wake up time so you can get the sunrise and things like that. I will always try to make room, but I would almost want to put you in conversation with Scott, who was a very photo-driven person on the tour, and he may have an opinion on how it works. He's done a bunch of our tours, and I could always ask permission, and then he could maybe answer that question better. I'm usually running around with just my iPhone and trying to be mama bear, not taking photographs so much, so I might not be an expert.
That contact would be nice. Thank you.
Okay, I will make a note. And Ms. Huffnagel, I'm sorry, I don't remember your first name and I only see the initial. You have a question, but your microphone is muted, just so you know. If you could unmute your microphone, I'll hear you. Hi.
Hi, Kathy.
Kathy, hi.
I was just wondering, what's the situation with the cherry blossoms on the April trip?
Yes. They are generally, right, because it depends how the weather goes. And so if you get a warmer season, things can start earlier or end later. Because we do go a fair distance north to south, we can maybe have been too late here, but get there in time there, that kind of thing. It's a bit weather dependent, but we generally see them. And even though we were in Kyoto for rainy days, we had a wonderful guide who pointed out that it's almost an honor to see them being washed away by the rain, because that's its own beauty. And she managed to turn all of our frowns upside down as we walked around in the rain. It's a spectacular culture that exists when the cherry blossoms are out. You see people with their blankets at the parks and having picnics, and all of the people are out and enjoying it with their kids and playing. And it really is spectacular to aim for. It's just really hard to guarantee. And I have seen them on the fall tour. There are some trees that do some blossoms that come out in the fall. And we happened to get a sort of warm weather boom, and they were having a second foliage. So we did get not as much fall weather colors, but we did get the bonus of the fall cherry blossoms that you might not always see. Again, that's one of those probably, but the cherry blossoms are worth planning around if that's a consideration.
Thanks.
Okay, good. Any other questions? Comments, concerns, anything that was missing that you might have liked to have heard about? I mean, I touched on the money and things like that, but we were sort of assuming that some of you may have experience in Japan already. Eileen, I saw you put your hand up on that one. Love to know.
Oh, not about the money. And this may be partly an unfair question, but I wondered, between fall and spring, do you have a preference as to which one is the better departure?
No, only because it's really shoulder season, so things can go awry. In the rail tour, we've been caught a little bit with a burst of snow that we didn't expect. I guess it really just comes down to autumn colors, cherry blossoms. The kabuki, the spring show happens, that kabuki day in Kyoto. You can't do that in the fall, but I may be able to find something similar, just not that one big show that's really kind of special. I got to say, weather-wise, though, they're pretty similar. It might be a tiny bit warmer because you can get some cool evenings in the fall. Might be a tiny bit warmer in spring. That's the best I can give you. They're very similar. So it would come down to that. Kathy, you had a question?
Okay, again, are there any special exhibits, museum shows, or anything in the April period that would, incline us to do that versus something else?
I have not come across anything like that myself, besides the Midori show that we like to recommend for people in the spring. Now, I'm just trying to think of the rail tour that I did with Katsumi when we were in Ueno and we were getting tickets for people to do a show in Tokyo. I'm going to say that was spring. So we do have options spring and fall in Tokyo to see that show specifically, or similar kabuki style theater. And that's about the only thing that I can think of really that is more seasonal as far. I mean, all of the highlights in museums and things that I would recommend, districts, restaurants, they're there no matter what the season. Of course, everybody emails me in the middle of a presentation, but never any other time. No other questions? I don't see hands. If I'm not seeing your hand and it's up, feel free to turn on the microphone and just ask it. But if there weren't too many questions, that hopefully tells me I did an okay job of covering it off for you. If you've never traveled with Adventures Abroad and you have simple questions like that, I'm happy to take those. And I can stick around for a little bit, but if you feel you got what you needed, you're absolutely able to hang up and I will not be offended. The information I hope you saw in the email, JP6, easy to look at. The different departures are there. Let's cross our fingers that we do get to go. And if you did remember that, pamshuey@gmail.com, you should be able to put it together from the email Jonathan sent you. If you have follow-up questions afterwards, I'm happy to answer those too. So thanks for coming out to the second official Adventures Abroadcast. I hope you had some fun and I hope to see you somewhere. Japan especially.